Welcome everyone to our 6th Cup of Joe. This is so fun, and today we're honored to have Terry Gawlik with us. I want to remind you, if you have been here before or if you have not been here before, that if you have questions, send them to me privately on the chat box, and we will ask Terry throughout the session those questions that you have. So just make sure to send them to me privately, and then I will get them to her. And then I think we're going to take it away, Kathy.
Great, thanks, Christy. And really thank you to all of you for joining us today. This has really become a wonderful platform to get everybody together. And it really is an honor and a pleasure today to welcome our guest, Athletic Director Terry Gawlik. Terry brings 25 years of leadership experience in collegiate athletics to her position, including in the Big Ten Conference and NCAA committees nationally. She's been a student athlete, a coach, an assistant athletics director, and a senior associate athletics director, and now she's the director of Vandal Athletics. She came to us from Wisconsin almost exactly a year ago. I looked it up, Terry, and we announced your hiring on August 7th. Mm-hmm. So you've been with us almost a year. And to say she's hit the ground running or had to hit the ground running would be an understatement. But she has certainly done that. She is a great colleague and a fabulous addition to the Vandal family, and I'm personally just thrilled to have her here. So welcome, Terry. I'm very glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Kathy and Christy, for having me on today and welcoming me with open arms, and Kathy teaching me the Vandals fight song. One of the best memories I've had is when we'd go around to the different football games and Kathy was along. We always started the song, and then at the end, I think at the end of this, we should do the I-D, etc., because I'm missing hearing that.
Yes.
It's been wonderful to be here. It's been so exciting. It's been a challenge. I'm not going to kid you. It's, I guess, something that nobody in athletics or in the country, not even just people in athletics, but businesses, families, friends, everybody. Who would have thought that we would be going through something as terrible as the COVID right now? And it's still, every day, all we're doing is having Zoom calls and planning and trying to make sure that we're keeping our student athletes and staff as safe as possible as we try to onboard back.
That was going to be my first question, Terry. Give us a status report. Where are we at? I know student athletes are back. You and your team have just been planning to make sure everyone's safe. Give us a little status report on where we're at with the fall sports.
Okay, for right now, we have 72 football players back. They've been here for a bit longer than some of the other athletes, and we just brought back last week our volleyball and soccer student athletes. And all of them are still doing what's called voluntary workout, basically with strength staff. So they will not start their full practices. Football is destined to start here this next Friday, and the other sports will follow. What we're basically waiting to hear is what actually is going to happen to fall sports. Are we going to delay the start? Would we push them back? We're just waiting on making those determinations, but we're doing everything we can to get sports moving forward.
A couple of games have been canceled already. Our first one and then the WSU game, right?
Right. As you saw, some conferences decided to not play either at the time that they had started the schedules, or some leagues even have said no fall football. So we are right now talking with some folks about possibly rescheduling some games. It's kind of a soft agreement between us and some institutions, so to speak, because we're still trying to make this happen here at Idaho, because we feel like we have a great onboard process within athletics and on campus.
Talk a little bit about some of the things you're doing to keep the athletes safe. I know they all had to go through testing before they ever walked through the door, right?
Well, what they had to do before they even got to our building was, if you were outside of a, let's say, 30-mile radius outside of Moscow, you had to come back to Moscow and self-isolate for 5 days. Then you came in, we did the NARS test, it's called PCR test, and you had to wait and see if your test came back negative, and if that happened, then you could start working out. But further beyond that, every day I come to work, I get my temperature checked. We have a chart. You have to look and agree that you don't have feel bad, aches and pains, sore throat, etc. The athletes all go through that, and they wait to be taken into the weight room 10 at a time. We work them out, then we clean the machines and we bring in the next 10. So we're taking a lot of precautions.
It's
Wow.
wonderful. It's wonderful. How are they feeling about that? How are the student athletes adapting?
Well, I'll be honest, first of all, they're so excited to be here and see each other. It's unbelievable. And even for me to walk to work, I usually walk to work every day and see the athletes waiting for practice and see their faces when they don't have their face mask on. It's just been fun. But what was hard on our football guys in particular, we gave them some face masks and they have to wear them when they're in the weight room. And we got some football guys that have some pretty large faces. And I go in there and it's like smashed to their, so it was hard at first, but they're adapting. They're just so happy to be here.
That's excellent. And coaches and staff as well?
The coaches actually, believe it or not, in this voluntary period, you can't have coaches coaching. It's just the strength staff. Although now some of the football coaches can be outside on the turf. And we haven't opened the Kibby Dome yet. Not even all our staff is back in the office. I told everybody work from home because we're calling it the bubble. So we have a Kibby Dome bubble, we have a football team bubble, we have a soccer team bubble, etc. We're trying to keep all these bubbles contained, if you will, and keep the COVID out.
Sure. So what can fans expect this fall? I know that a lot of planning's gone into that when we do start playing.
That was another planning session that we started way back in April and continue to upgrade and follow national trends. And of course, you have to follow what's happening in not only your state, but your area, according to the health department. So we're lucky that we're able to allow up to 5,100 as our number in the stadium, but we had to reseat the whole venue, so to speak, to give space between people. So our ticket office person, Mike Jackson, has done a fabulous job rearranging all that. And we feel confident that that's a good number for us to be able to handle people moving about. You will have to have your temperature checked when you walk in, and you will also have to wear a mask.
Okay, excellent, excellent. A little different than what we're used to, for sure, for sure. I would just add, we've been working on the tailgate front as well to make sure that we can tailgate as safely as possible. We've got a lot of room to use, which is a good thing. It's just a matter of making sure everything's in the right place and moving forward only when it's safe. So pandemic, all sorts of things. Your first year has been a doozy, my friend. So other than the pandemic, what's been your greatest challenge so far in the job?
My first big challenge, and this is going to sound like a strange one, but I just thought of that, is getting to know the people. Because for those of you that have met me, I'm a people person. I love to talk in person, which has been hard during this pandemic. But so just getting to know the names and faces and realizing who lives where, and I'm still working on that with people I don't see often, and doing a lot of listening and trying to figure out the best way to move this department forward. So it's been wonderful in the aspect that we have great people here, whether it be in my own department, whether it be vandals outside in the community or the state, or even our folks on campus, Kathy, yourself, others. And my mantra has been, I want to move things forward for this department. And one of the things that I noticed was lacking was communication within our department, but also in particular across campus. So I made that a top priority for not only myself, but my staff. And I think it's really been paying off and working. Kathy's shaking her head, so I'm getting
it. Has been. It's just, those bridges have been built so strong. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about the highlights of the past year and being a vandal for the first time.
Wow, there's so many. It's just been, you hit the ground running and you go to, you're around the athletes and you get to meet all the support from the state and VSF groups and everybody. It's just been so many highlights. I could talk all day on what they all were. It was fun to be in the football locker room when we won our first game and they gave me the game ball. I totally didn't expect that. That was really cool. One of the toughest things, flipping it kind of to the end of COVID, was standing in front of the young women and coaches that were down at the Big Sky tournament and having to say, we can't play anymore. The tournament, for those that weren't tracking on the timing of it. We were told we weren't having our tournament anymore, but at that point in time, we didn't know that the NCAA tournament had been canceled. So it's like telling a team, well, you've come this far and earned it to play in the championship and perhaps go on to the NCAA, but now you can't play. So that was
Really rough.
yeah, it was hard.
Yep. So all sorts of things have happened. What keeps you going? What drives you to continue serving, continue problem solving? You're high energy, girl. I would say that about you.
I'd say it's probably two things: my love for people, but my love for college athletics and what it does for not just our student athletes, but the community, and what teamwork is about, and you're developing leaders. And I didn't quite realize when I was in college, I thought I was going to be a marine biologist, but that didn't work. The school I picked to go to didn't have marine biology. And someone said, you know, you have such a passion for, you're an educator. And I never thought about that. But that's what I feel I am, and that's what I feel our coaches are. And then what adds to that, especially if you're in athletics, is I'm highly competitive. So you add that to it, and it can be a complicated personality to have, but I think it works in this world so far, in this athletic world.
It's awesome. So outside of athletics, what's been your favorite part about being in Idaho?
The scenery. My husband and I, because we're still living in a 2-bedroom apartment, we're waiting on our house offer to go through. We've been fly fishing the last 3 weekends and picked a different river every time, and just getting out and seeing what beautiful country Idaho has to offer. It's amazing. It's an amazing state. There's so much to do. There's not enough time, to get it all done, obviously. But it's been a fun adventure.
Catching anything?
Well, you would ask. I just caught about a 15-inch cutthroat up on the St. Joe on Sunday afternoon.
Doesn't get any better than that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you always been an outdoor person?
I have. I grew up in a little town outside of San Antonio. We had horses, a pet great horned owl, rabbit, a chicken once. Don't ever get a pet rooster. It was an attack chicken after it got big. It was
A guard rooster. I love it.
Yeah, I love the outdoors. I would, well, you can kind of tell. I went out and had lunch. I told our head trainer, I'm going out to enhance my tan. I love being outside. Anything I can do outside, I'm a better person when I get some outside activity.
How'd you get your start in sports as a kid? Were you just naturally athletic, and what was your favorite activity?
Well, according to my dad, who played football at Texas, I'm not very athletic. That's what he told me. I had to work for it. My sister, who didn't play athletics, he said was more athletic. So that gave me the drive. But I started playing sports in 6th grade. Back then you didn't have all the, when you were a little kid, play soccer, whatever. Literally, you started in 6th grade, and I started playing basketball. And then my favorite probably sport to compete in was volleyball. But I didn't pick that up till I was going into my senior year in high school.
Wow.
A lot of self-teaching, and then I ended up going and getting a scholarship for volleyball and basketball. So it was just a fun environment to be in. It was so fun to grow up in a small little community in Texas and play sports, because the whole town would support you.
Oh yeah. Yep. Friday night lights, isn't there a show about that?
And that was my cousin's little town, Falls City, Texas, 1AA. They went to state every year. I told someone once, if you wanted to rob anybody in Falls City, you just go when the state tournament's on, because nobody'd be home.
Talk about your coaching years, Terry. What lessons did you learn in that environment that's helping you in your role now?
Well, I'll be honest, it took me about 5 to 8 years to realize it's okay to say you don't know it all and to ask for help. Because when I graduated from college, I got a college job at a rival institution in my own conference. So I coached against all my former teammates, and I was bound and determined to outcoach my former coach. So it took me a few years to ask for advice, but I did beat her in both sports, in volleyball and basketball. So at the time when I coached, it was me, myself, and I was coaching 2 sports, volleyball and basketball, and teaching, doing all the recruiting, and I had no assistants. And half the time I was the athletic trainer. You'd wrap the ankles. Half the time I do the laundry. Half the time I was sweeping the floor. So you were, I like to say, a jack of all trades and a master of none. And that's what kind of got to me in the end. I felt like I was too many balls in the air. So I started focusing on administration more, because when you're doing it by yourself, it just gets really, really challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also learn a lot when you're doing all of those things. I mean, that you juggle a lot of balls now as an administrator.
I do, but I also love the juggling. I love multitasking. But I'm a great procrastinator too. You can ask my husband. I have a project I don't want to do, it gets put off. But yeah, it does teach you, one, to appreciate our equipment room guy or our trainer, or once you're doing all those things and you have that opportunity to experience what it's like and walk in those shoes. I mean, I'll be honest, coaching really helped me get to where I am today, because when I was assigned sports at Wisconsin as an administrator, I could relate to the coaches because I had been there, and they knew that I had that background.
Right, right. Who's your favorite coach over the years, and how did they motivate you?
Mm. Wow, that I played for, or a coach that I worked with? Or does it
Neither.
matter?
All of the above.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite coaches was a coach I had in 7th grade. Because in 7th grade, you know, you're out there trying to figure it out, and when you're a young woman at that age, you don't have much confidence. And win or lose, our coach was not down on us. She was always trying to make us better. So I was motivated by that coach. And then I'd have to say probably the coach that motivated me the most was a coach I hired at Wisconsin, very successful coach. Just watching what that coach did and how they organized and how they cared for their kids, and how they could have a difficult conversation with the kid, but get out of it what they wanted, that motivated me.
Cool, cool. I have to say, you have just been a terrific partner for me and our staff in working with the Vandal family. So
Yeah.
how important and is it for alumni, for you to have the support of alumni and for them to give their time, talent, and treasure back to U of I?
I think it's really important, and I think that's the core of what makes an institution like Idaho special. You know, when you come from a bigger institution that has, I don't even know how many more alumni, it gets complicated, I guess is the word, or it's overwhelming with the amount of alumni that out there. Don't get me wrong, you love having that many alumni, but when you have a smaller number, you get to know the people better. And it's a work in progress here. It's a work in progress everywhere. College athletics right now, I mean, I'm really worried about some institutions. You know, you've seen some people drop sports. We're not talking about dropping sports here. We're going to find ways to make it happen. But you really worry about what college athletics is going to look like in the future. And it's not just the COVID. There's some other things out there that we're tracking on, whether it be the lawsuits or the social injustice or all these different kind of things. So it's a work in progress. So the one thing I would ask of our alumni and fans is be patient. We're making a lot of progress. You might not see it on paper. We might not have a strategic plan that we have codified on paper, but I guarantee you we're planning and implementing. We're planning and implementing even before I got here. So there's been a lot of work that's gone on behind the scenes, but at times, and I get this, I'm competitive. People judge it off wins and losses, and it goes way deeper than that, way deeper.
Talk a little bit about the things that we could do to be most helpful in terms of like the Vandal Scholarship Fund. You've got a new program for season tickets. What can we do to help that way?
Spread the good news that the Vandals are here and we're getting better and better, and we want to move things forward. And without help from everyone, whether it be financially, whether it be spreading the word, whether it be, I keep telling people, you know, we always talk about butts and seats and athletic venues. We need butts and seats on campus. We need students here. This is a really iconic campus and community that you don't find everywhere. we need more and more students to come here and enjoy and embrace what we have as an institution.
Mhm, mhm. Talk about the season ticket program. Tried and true. What is it called?
Yeah, tried and true. We found that, people were hesitant to buy tickets, and I understand. I was hesitant. My staff kept pushing me. Hey, Terry, we need to get this out. We need to let people know what we would do if we don't have a season. And I was like, okay, I get that, but I also don't want people to feel like we're panicking. So it took us a while to get the document drafted and sent out. We actually had it drafted way before Boise State did, just so you know. There goes my competitive spirit again. And we didn't just put it together after we saw theirs. We already had ours. It was sitting on my desk. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't send the wrong message, but I also wanted people to feel comfortable that we have plans in place, in particular talking about the safety and welfare of the fans, but also our student athletes. So I think we have a great plan in place. I encourage people to buy, because at some point we could run out of room, because let's face it, we're going to have to limit how much room we have in that venue.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Christy, let's
Yes.
turn to some questions from our participants.
Yes, of course. So we have one from Dallas, and I think you've kind of already touched on this, but maybe there's something else you could address. My question for Terry: what's been the biggest difficulty for your office with the COVID pandemic already causing so many changes with fall athletics?
Having answers for people.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the answers. So it was funny because our conference staff, they've done a whole lot of work. We changed the way that we're hosting our fall championships. This happened 2 months ago. They've been working a lot on making adjustments. One, to think about the COVID, but two, to also help us try to save some dollars on how we travel and whatnot. So I had told Jamie, that's the one we work with, and she has this behind her desk, a little document that says COVID, all these different topics, and then it says, I don't know, 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 I don't know. That's kind of what we feel like every day, but I can assure you we're exploring all kinds of options and talking them through and trying again to do what's best for our student athletes, Idaho, and the conference, and everybody.
Yeah. So when do you expect the remainder of the conferences to make decisions about fall sports?
Oh, it's a game of chicken out there right now.
Yeah.
Game of chicken.
You go first. No, you go first.
We've heard August 1st is kind of the deadline-ish, arbitrary deadline, but.
There was also a deadline July 1st.
Oh, okay. So they just keep moving it.
Well, it is true that you do have to have time to prep your athletes. And to my knowledge, aside from the conferences or institutions that chose to not have fall football, I think everybody's working out, unless their community or area is still at a lower stage, if you will. So Portland is still at stage 1. Portland State does not have athletes working out like we do.
Oh.
So that's where it gets tricky too, because then how do they get going, and how do they get their athletes prepared? So we're running out of time though. Something's going to have to get here shortly.
So can you talk a little bit about the arena and what opportunities you see for the new facility? And after that, is there any other facility project that Vandal Athletics should explore?
Great questions. What do I see about the arena? I see so much possibility there. I'm on a committee now to not only look at what we're doing in there for basketball, but can we bring in music? Can we bring in 4-H groups? Can we bring in, I don't know, name it, you name it. We're looking to bring in anything into that wonderful building. They're now putting on the under part of the roof. I mean, every day I walk by that, I'm amazed by, one, the athletes, I get to see them, and two, that building. So we're looking for all kinds of draws to that building, so to speak, and utilize it for other things aside from basketball and perhaps some other sports. And I'm sorry, what's the second part of your question? Oh, what other? Yeah, I'm still trying to, at some point, I really want to get the outdoor practice field done. I believe that that is way beyond its time of life, so to speak. And we have to alter certain practices out there because we don't want kids to get hurt. And in particular with football or soccer, we're altering things because of the injury prevention. So they can't do it out there. They have to go do it in the kibbe. So I'd like to get that done. That's a project. And there's some other projects that have been kind of in the hopper, whether it be locker room renovation. When we do move out with basketballs, the teams get to move over to ICCU. We're going to need to figure out what to do with the locker rooms because there's some of our women's sports here that don't have very, very good locker rooms.
Yeah.
One thing we've been working on for everyone is the inside signage and design, and it's so fun to be able to think about what it's going to look like. The alumni club's going to be along that whole west side on the second floor terrace. It's going to be amazing. A few of us waited for a while to watch that big major beam get put into place. We didn't quite get to stay long enough, but it's an amazing facility, and it's going to serve us well for a long, long time. Sorry to interject there, but I'm pretty excited about the arena.
No, it was awesome. We were standing out there, and I did get to be out there when it finally went together, and the lead construction guy started crying. It was so him, and then I still get goosebumps when I talk about it. It's spectacular.
That's awesome.
The Idaho wood products industry has stepped up in a way that, it's pretty amazing. And we're going to end up with an internationally unique facility when it's done. So great project. What else you got, Christy?
Okay, from the Reagan family, did you ever get a chance to visit one-on-one with former UIAD Bill Belknap?
Yes, I'm so sorry to hear about his passing. That was the news that was shared, obviously, this weekend. And yes, he came by a couple of times. Very much was willing to share with me what he thought I should do about this and that, which is great. But I was really touched to hear what I heard in his voice, and what he shared was he so wished he had never given up the athletic director seat. He just really found that was his passion, and that's what gave him, energy in life. And I know he got back into athletics, but he told me, don't give it up. Keep it as long as you can. It's worth being here, and it's worth the position. So think about that when he shared that with me.
Yeah, that's great.
He was a great Vandal.
Will there be a Vandal Hall of Fame class for 2020 and a recognition function?
Good question. I think we talked about that, and I think that we delayed it till next year, but don't hold me to that. I have so many things in my head. I wasn't prepped for that question, so I think that we delayed it. But I could be wrong.
Are you in conversation with anyone about filling in for Western Oregon and WSU?
Let's see, we didn't talk about what if I can't give an answer.
We'll just go to the next one then. Terry from Mitchell, welcome to Idaho. What can the Greek community, both undergraduate and graduate, do to support you in your new role?
Well, hello, Mitch. I was invited to two different houses, one fraternity, one sorority. One thing I'd like to get out to every house, bar the COVID, all that stuff. But certainly we have been in talks also since the day I got here of how to get Greek life more engaged in athletics. And we've been coming up with some ideas. It may take a while longer to insert them, but I've been working with the Greek leaders and some leaders on campus about how can we make sure that those two groups are connected, and also a group like the band. So we want our kids, kids are like us. You come to your little unit or your little tower and you never get outside your box. So sometimes you got to force the connection. So any ideas that people have, or any ways that we can connect those groups. I know that I've had some people say, well, you have to tell your coaches that kids can't be told they can't be in a sorority or fraternity. Our coaches don't say that. What our coaches say, though, is, you have to realize that if you do make a commitment to them, you have a commitment to athletics. And sometimes those get really challenging with whether it be your hours that you have to put in, because I know the Greeks have certain dinners and things that you have to be at, or study table. Well, we have study table requirements over here. So the more we can bridge those gaps, I can see more connection happening.
Yeah. What would be the minimum number of games that we would play in a fall season versus canceling fall sports?
Well, it would depend upon the sport. And I think it would also depend upon at what point do we want to determine, is that the best experience we can offer to our student athletes? An example would be, what if we played a sport, but there wasn't an NCAA or a conference, postseason championship? Would that be a great experience? The NCAA does have minimal numbers that you need to hit when you play in all the sports. However, I will say that the NCAA is probably going to be a lot more lenient in relaxing some of the parameters, some of the rules, just because times are so crazy right now. And it's not, people think, well, just move football to spring. Well, it's not that easy. In particular, it's easier for us, in my opinion. It'd be easier for the FCS to move to spring than it would be for FBS, because FBS is tied to all those bowls, and there's so many moving parts to the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. There's just a lot that would have to be moved. The same thing would apply to basketball. Yeah. Basketball is really tough to move all the championships.
So based on your experiences over the last year, what would you say is the competitive advantage that Idaho has that would attract students to our campus?
The campus, to start with, I think it is a huge competitive advantage. I would also say the size of our school, the relationship to faculty, student, the opportunity to do, whether it be internships or work for professors, our opportunity that we love, our academic center. We have a great academic staff here. I mean, they have done so many great things this whole year, particularly when COVID hit and helping kids with online classes. It's just unbelievable. And last but not least, the people.
Yeah.
So if you build, the way I look at it, if you build a great culture, it's going to perpetuate itself. And we have a really great culture here.
Yeah, we do.
Looks like we've got time for one more question, Christy, and then we need to wrap it up. Our time went too fast.
I know, it goes by really fast. The COVID plan for the small population of athletes sounds good, but how do you see that plan evolving as the general population returns and risks exposures increase significantly?
Great question. And even with the small plan, we are telling our kids before they get here and when they get here, here's the bubble. You got to protect the bubble. Well, they're also young people. And sometimes young people like to go outside the bubble or bring somebody else in the bubble, or the bubbles might collide. So we knew that when we put in this plan, there was going to be positives. We have also a plan in place if there are positives. So that has to be invoked, and that will be the same thing that happens with campus. We are out in front of it, in my opinion, as a campus in terms of what we're going to be doing in bringing students back. We haven't officially released it yet. It's coming. We've been working on it since, well, actually, I will say our campus has been out in front and been working on this since the COVID was identified in March. We didn't sit back and say, oh, let's wait and see. We got on things, we ordered equipment, we did some things. So we are, in my opinion, way out in front of a lot of institutions. And we're also fortunate that we're in a community that does not have a lot of cases. Knock on wood.
Right.
Yeah, knock on wood.
That's a great question.
Right.
A great partner in that has been Gritman Medical Center. They have linked arms with us from day one in terms of equipment, PPE, testing, all sorts of things. So we're also fortunate that in our community we have good partners like that. There's a meeting this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon, sometime this week, with the mayor of Moscow and Pullman, President Green, President Schultz from WSU, to talk about the two communities joining forces as well. I mean, it's the bubble gets a little bit bigger when you include WSU. So that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Terry before we?
I have a final one.
Okay.
Who is your dream band or performer to come perform in the new arena?
Oh.
Yeah, that's what it is. Are you setting me up?
It wasn't from me. That was a participant question.
George Strait, hands down.
George Strait.
Too expensive, but you got to try. I figure I'm from Texas. He's from Texas.
That's
Do a little
right.
two-stepping, man.
Hey.
I think you should give him a call.
Yeah.
I will. All right. So you got to lead it. I said we have to do it. You don't have to do the whole song, but you got to lead it.
Oh, we've got to do the song, Kathy.
Okay. We'll do that in just a second. Before we do that though, I do want to say a big thank you to everyone on the call. Once again, it's just a great way to reconnect. I miss you all. I haven't been on the road in so long. My suitcase is moldy. So I'm just really, sad not to be able to travel as much as we usually do. But yes, I thank you. And thank you, Terry, for being with us and for being here and helping us work through a pretty gnarly time. I have no doubt we are going to come through it just fine and stronger than ever. So here we go.
Everybody has to unmute.
Okay, everyone unmute. Isn't Zoom fun? Okay,
Yeah.
on
Everyone's hanging up because they don't want to be. They don't want to be heard.
2, 3. Idaho. Very nice. That was fabulous. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Thank you.